Greetings! Welcome to FilmGazers, a podcast focusing on the science fiction, horror, fantasy trinity, and 20th century entertainment. I'm Steph.
I'm Jess. We are cousins/besties. Join us as we reminisce, discuss, and review films from our childhood.
Merry Cannibal Christmas.
Yes, and a good Cannibal Christmas to you.
So we kicked off this month with Living Dead Girl. Cannibal adjacent is kind of what we concluded. Now we're going full cannibal.
Yes. Full on.
Full on. And so until just this moment that we have edited out of this episode.
Save that for the bloopers.
Yes, exactly. For January's theme, we're going to continue with what will be our legacy eventually. our aliens theme. And this one is going to be almost done waiting? Question mark?
Aliens. Almost done waiting?
And we will announce our actual picks at a later date.
I mean, I already got my pick.
Oh.
Ready in my head.
Oh, you do?
I do.
That quick.
I do.
Oh, nice. I'm going to have to think about it a little more. So, yeah, and you'll get those. We'll announce those when we do our Twilight mini-sodes.
Yes. So stay tuned for that.
Yes. I got them all ready, waiting in the wings to be watched. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I'm looking forward to it because I've never seen them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then knowing that we're going to do them
Dave
together. What?
Dave's like, she's going to fucking hate them.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. So what else you been doing and watching lately?
I wrote it down in the notes.
Oh, look at you fancy.
I know. So I started my holiday seasonal watch because this year was really hard for me to get in the spirit of anything.
Agreed.
Holiday-wise. I still decorated and whatnot, but holiday, watching movies, I was like, after 40 years of watching, I can't.
It's hard some days, I get it.
Watch it. I could have watched How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Jim Carrey one, but it wasn't streaming anywhere on anything that I pay for already.
Do you have a Blu-ray player?
No, I just have a regular DVD player.
I think I have it on Blu-ray.
Oh, well.
It's I only own maybe 15 physical copies of media at this point.
Oh, no, I have a lot.
I used to have a ton, yeah, but we downsized.
I'm going to start investing in it again.
I know, I am too, because now...
I'm going to get my library.
We have all the Ghibli, almost, on either DVD or Blu-ray. It's fine, we didn't have to distinguish all Blu-ray or anything. And then I have, my Christmas movie. That's literally it, some holiday movies.
Hey.
I have all the
good start.
The claymation ones. I have all of those.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah, we can watch that on Jolly Assholes this year.
Yes. Because I've been dying to see Rudolph again.
Oh, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, we have that one. That's the one actually, on the thing. It was still in the Blu-ray player from the last Blu-ray I watched from last year. Because that's how, often I watch.
How often you bring it out.
Yeah.
But, so I watched a movie that I haven't watched in years, and it was Jingle All the Way.
Oh, I love that one. I've watched it actually pretty often. Within the last decade. I've watched it at least 3 times, I think.
I remember the last time I watched it, it just, the whole sequence of events just got me so pissed off.
It is a little, as an adult watching it, I want to, beat the shit out of Sinbad.
I think I remember that from last time I watched it.
Both of them together are infuriating at times.
Yeah.
As a kid, you are not, it's funny, because adults are in a awful, stressful situation, and you're like,
and they're doing it for perfect present.
Yeah, but as an adult, it is a little, but I loved it. It was such a staple in my house, during our holidays. It was just, we had it on VHS. We watched it all the freaking time around the holidays. I'm glad you...
I mean, it was still funny. I love Sinbad.
wasn't as
so it was all right. I mean, I
aggravating.
just kind of had it in like the background.
Yeah.
I wasn't like fully focused on it, but it wasn't as aggravating as I remember it being.
Phil Hartman's annoying, but great.
No,
like,
I think his character was my favorite because he's so deadpan, and I love that.
He could just like he knew how to deliver, you know, like he just knew how to deliver.
So I started the season with that, and then the only other Christmas movies I watched was some of the newer ones that came out on Netflix. The one I really liked, it was actually a Hallmark movie, like Hallmark made movie, but it was called Biltmore Christmas.
It sounds vaguely familiar.
I guess Biltmore is an actual place.
Yes, I believe so.
In like the Carolina?
I think so.
Maybe?
Yeah, around.
So the location was beautiful. And it's where she magically steps back into the 40s in the same Biltmore place. Yeah, in the same estate because of a magical
Christmas orb
hourglass.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Christmas orb. No, that was too technical. It was an hourglass that was magical. And on set, that's where they filmed like this very famous Christmas movie that's just made up for the movie.
Yeah.
And she meets like the main star and blah, 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 blah. And like romance, blah, blah, blah happens. And it was really cute. Like the acting was good. It wasn't like super cheesy. And it didn't have anybody that I recognized in it that I can recall. But it was really good. Yeah. Recommended.
Sweet.
And then I watched with my mom Hot Frosty.
Oh God, I saw the trailer. For that. I was like, I don't know.
It was cute. It was pretty cute.
It was a couple of years ago now, like fairly recent though, like not that long ago, where I went down the whole of like all of those kind of Christmas films to where I did it so much in one season that I've like
never again.
I don't know if never again, but I'm just like it's too soon.
Yeah,
but that one I was like, it's gonna be on the list.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Also, I forgot. I got to get back to you on that one episode we were talking about baby back ribs.
Oh yeah.
No, Gabriel had no idea.
I told you, dude. I told you.
We're so far removed. We're old officially.
Yeah. Oh, just we've been rambling a lot in this episode, but I don't give a shit because this is the last full episode of the year.
Yes,
so I don't care if it's 2 hours long.
I got all day. Yeah, we got to wrap it up. We got to wrap the whole year up.
Gotta wrap it up. No, that's great. So for any listeners who didn't listen to that episode, we were doing the Chili's baby back ribs thing, and then I brought up that I don't think that's like a well-known pop culture reference like any longer with the younger crowd. And her son is 17, so in that one she was like, "Oh, I'll ask him."
No, he had no idea.
He had no idea.
No, and I said, "Oh man, it was a commercial," and he's like, "Oh really?" I was like, "Yeah."
Did you guys watch it? Did you show it?
He looked it up. He was like,
He's like, it's
no comment.
It's no Quiznos subs hamsters.
Oh, because he loved those.
I know. I was obsessed with those commercials.
Anyways, also I watched. There's a new show that came out on Paramount Plus called Tracker.
Ooh.
It's got the guy that was in Umbrella Academy. The big tall guy who was also in This Is Us.
The gorilla guy?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's in it. He has the tracker. He claims rewards. Like if people are claiming, like, a missing girl, $10,000 reward. Yeah. He's like, oh, okay, I'll go find the girl and get the reward. That's how he makes his living.
Okay. He's a bounty hunter.
Basically, but
kind of. But missing persons.
For missing persons. And it's cheesy. But I really enjoyed watching it. I was like, oh yes, it's filled my role for because I really enjoy having some kind of either detective or.
I see in your notes that it's by Wolf Dick.
Not that one.
Oh, it's not.
That one's not.
Oh, okay.
No.
Oh, there's a different. I thought
show.
That was a whole title.
No, that's a totally different show.
I have watched the FBI Most Wanted by Wolf Dick.
By Wolf Dick.
Yes.
That was so funny. I was like, oh, there's so many. There's FBI. There's FBI Most Wanted. There's FBI something else.
I know. I got into the whole wormhole. I think I've watched them all already.
Really?
Yeah. I can't believe I didn't bring it up.
No, because I didn't even know they were existed.
I mean, true crime is like a downer for a lot of people, so I try not to bring it up too often.
Right. No, but these are I mean, it's not real.
Yeah.
It's not real true crime. It's fabricated. But yeah, so this one, I started with the regular FBI one, but I didn't really, it wasn't exciting enough, I guess. I was like, I like more of like whodunits, not like.
Yeah. I get you on that.
You know, especially if it's like Most Wanted. And then it was, is it Dylan McDermott who's in it?
I think that's his name.
Dermot. It's some kind of Dermot.
It's been a little while now.
I can look it up.
I kind of forget that stuff. And just as quickly as I watch it, I just as quickly forget it. Does that make sense?
For sure.
Like,
Same thing happens to me too.
Especially when it's like...
That's why I don't like telling people like what I'm into, because then they like quote things from it and I'm like, oh, I know I watched it 800 times, but I still don't retain any information.
I love it so much because every time it's like I'm watching it for the first time.
Exactly. And they're like, oh, I forgot about that. Dylan McDermott. Look at me. Okay. See, I do retain information.
I saw his face, but I was like, is that his name?
And then to wrap up what I've been watching, me and my mom started AP Bio last night. It's on Netflix.
Oh, with the guy from It's Always Sunny.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me a lot of Community.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So yeah, it's funny. I like it. And it's like each episode's like 20 minutes long, so it's a
sitcom,
really easy watch.
Yeah. Noise.
So I recommend that one as well.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
I've been going to bed early, as we previously discussed. Mm-hmm. So I have been watching things, but it's been half-assing, a little bit. We're still watching Dragon Ball OG. Duh. But we've only watched a couple since then. I'm taking this one a lot slower. Then we also had Trapped in Paradise was streaming, the Nicolas Cage movie
gosh,
with John Lovitz and Dana Carvey.
I used to love that movie.
Much like I remember how I felt about this movie when I watched it, like in middle school, because I went through that whole stage of my Blockbuster rentals where it was like all Nicolas Cage movies. Mm-hmm. And this was one of them. And I remember even then being so disappointed.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, because I remember I'm like, Dana Carvey isn't really that funny in it. He's just like his little shtick kind of stuff, but it's just more annoying. Mm-hmm. John Lovitz, it's John Lovitz. Like, he was fine. But the overall plot, it could be like this fun kind of like Christmas crime caper almost.
Who was the female in that?
Oh, gosh, I don't even remember her name, but... she's in it. And I just remember, Nicolas Cage. And even his character's kind of annoying. Like, I don't know. It was just, was exactly how I remembered it, to be honest. So for me, I was like, okay, this one's like fully retired. I probably won't watch it ever again. Andrew hated it. He absolutely hated it.
I'll have to watch it because that was.
I'm pretty sure it was on Tubi, I think. Okay. Yeah, I think it was on Tubi. And then we also watched Rush Hour 2.
Nice.
I think I fell asleep through it, so I don't remember the ending. But I just love Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker.
I know, they were a good duo.
Yeah, they were. Like I enjoyed all those movies when I was younger at the time. Mm-hmm. So but I haven't watched a lot of them since that kind of time too. So it is fun to go back.
I might have watched Rush Hour within the past 5 years.
I have. I watched it just within the last 2, I think.
Yeah.
And that's when we saw Rush Hour 2 was, again, I think it was on Tubi, and we'll watch that one.
What was the one, like the Western one? Oh, that was
Shanghai Noon.
Yes,
and that was with
Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson.
Yes. Yeah. I watched those.
Yeah, those I watched
recently.
a ton. Yeah. Yeah, those I haven't watched more recently, so that'll be.
I wasn't like super paying attention when I had them on, but I feel like they were still
kind of held up
better than Wild West.
Probably
better than that.
So I can't. I would have to go back and pick up where I fell asleep from to fully give any opinion on it. It started off a little. Just the jokes, like regarding race and everything, I just feel like it probably would not fly today.
Oh, are you talking about Rush Hour?
In Rush Hour, yeah. I was like, oh, I don't remember some of this. But okay. And then I finally watched the Pride and Prejudice from my cozy watch list.
Was it the Keira Knightley one?
Yes, the Keira Knightley one. I loved it.
No.
I know. Can you believe that?
No.
I know. I was surprised too. I even broke it up into viewings because it's pretty long. And like I was very pleasantly surprised. Like it is still very much that period piece, but I appreciated both of their acting was pretty good. I mean, I feel like Colin Firth probably was a better Mr. Darcy. I will say that.
Really?
Yeah, probably. This guy was fine. But I just am partial to Colin Firth.
Yeah, but I love Keira Knightley.
Yeah, she was great in it. If we could have a redo with Keira Knightley and Colin Firth, I'd be down.
As they are
today.
Because I think they would match well.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. He's pretty old now.
I haven't seen him.
He's like full white hair now, I think.
In my head, he will always be Bridget Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Colin
Well,
Firth.
and that's the great thing, too. I think that's why I loved it.
Because it's based on
Bridget Jones. You can, like it has its certain themes it takes from this book and movie.
Yeah.
For sure. And I always kind of knew that. But yeah, I wasn't a big fan of this kind of stuff, so that's why I always preferred Bridget Jones over any of the like period piece one. But yeah, well, after watching it this time and really seeing how much Bridget Jones did have, so much elements kind of from it that even Andrew noticed, because at one point watching, he's like, "Is this kind of like your Bridget Jones movie?" And I was like, "Yes, it is." So I really liked it. It's just again. I think why I always never was into those kind of movies is because it's so hard for me to find it romantic. Like, it's hard for me to not look at actually what the connotations of these stories mean. Like these women had no say so in anything, like they were property. Like, so that's why it was always hard for me to get into this stuff. Because I'm like, I don't want to romanticize that. Like,
to me, it's more like to find romance under the conditions.
Yeah, and that's how I'm seeing it now. Yeah, like exactly. So I'm like, okay, I can see how people can still look and read these stories. Exactly. And you can still enjoy them. I like how, but again, these period pieces that I'm liking are always about some girl who's not really wanting to conform to the standards somewhat too. So guess checks out. But yeah, I really liked it. I gave it 3.5 stars. Like the movie itself was fine. There was certain scenes that I know back then were probably like, when I saw reviews and stuff, they're like, "Oh my God, the rain scene," or like, like to where as I'm watching it, or like when he's like walking up in the fog, like and everyone's like, "Oh my God," but I'm like, where did he come from? like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it makes me giggle now.
Yeah, it makes me giggle now. I'm not like, oh, it's so
dreamy.
And like the way he was like sauntering.
Yeah. Sachet.
Yeah.
Shante.
He definitely was. But yeah, I did really like it. So that was actually surprising to me. I was like, I think I'm ready to get into this genre now.
Yeah.
I think whatever my maturity level, I don't know, I'm ready for it.
Because now you can appreciate it and giggle at it if it's like too much.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm not like, oh, this is stupid. Like, I'm more like, oh, oh, but then what happened?
Yeah.
So, and then of course, watching Reba.
Still watching Reba.
And we watched the Survivor finale.
How was it?
This week. It was good. The person who I wanted to win, won.
You wanted to win?
Win. Oh. The person I wanted to win won.
Win.
So yeah, that's what I've been also up to. I also, in preparation for this episode, it being like an end of year, I listened to some of the beginnings of our episodes we've released this year. I realized that I kind of didn't accomplish a lot with just like certain
things that you set out to do.
Yeah, set out to do or things I said, like Tail Chaser song. I have never finished that book. And I talked about it in April. In April, I started it.
I mean,
in our defense, we had a traumatic experience with losing our cat, and then it was hard for me to want to get into a cat book.
Right.
Like, so
that's totally fair.
But yeah, just certain things. Listening, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I even watched that, or did this or read that. And then I was like, oh man, I feel like this year was just a blur. Mm-hmm. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and get into it. But at the end of the episode, please stay tuned because we're going to have a few more kind of fun end of year recap a little bit. We're going to find out what each other's favorites and non-favorites were.
I thought you said recapple. End of the year recapple.
It's a recapple. Yeah, and discuss our favorites from this year and our not so favorites, as well as a fun question I had a coworker ask me, mm-hmm. and I had to like really think about it, and I was like, that would be fun to ask Jessica. So stay tuned to find out if you could be any person in any movie and like live their life, basically, like be that character. Who would you be? Mm-hmm. Ooh. It's what you really got to think about, I feel like, because it's anything's up for grabs. But that'll be at the end. In this episode, we watched 1999's Ravenous. It was directed by Antonia Bird. It was written by Ted Griffin. It was produced by Adam Fields and David Heyman. It was starring Guy Pearce, Robert Carlyle, Jeremy Davies, Jeffrey Jones, John Spencer, Stephen Spinella, Neil McDonough, and David Arquette. Cinematography by Anthony B. Richmond. Edited by Neil Farrell. The music is by Michael Nyman and Damon Albarn. The release date was March 19th, 1999. It is 100 minutes running time. The budget was $12 million. The box office was $2 million.
No.
It was a big old floppy flop.
Not in my eyes.
So with that, I'm going to jump into the facts. I had some fun looking up stuff about this one. It does have an interesting, a little bit of like drama, a little bit behind it. You can find it a lot more. There seems to be, for sure, a cult following. Like, when I was looking up stuff, there are a lot of people who hate this film, obviously. Like, it did not do well when it was released. But after reading a lot of reviews and seeing things, there's a lot of people who love this movie like us. So we are not alone in liking this weird little film.
Oddity.
Yeah, and a lot of people hate it. A lot of people have never heard of it.
Yes, that's what I found most common.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that. So going into it, though, you can find a lot of YouTube videos now of the people who have heard of it. They're sharing the love about the little gem that they think it is, and it does have some interesting stuff kind of surrounding it. So here we go. Screenwriter Ted Griffin, he wrote the script. He was combining elements, of course, from the Donner Party and that of Alfred Packer. He was the real-life Colorado cannibal, and he had survived by eating 5 companions after becoming snowbound in the San Juan Mountains in the 1870s.
I thought you said after snowboarding. I was like, in the 1870s?
Extreme!
So
the plot also served as an overt criticism of Manifest Destiny through its use of cannibalism. It was turning the act into an insatiable hunger. The voracious need to eat human flesh is equated to the all-consuming pursuit of power and wealth that was inherent to the expansionist attitudes for those seeking to settle the American frontier. They wrote that really well.
Yeah,
that source that I got, I was like, well, I'll have to
verbatim
all of that. Yeah. I was like, that was good. So it does have a very one-of-a-kind soundtrack. It was composed by Michael Nyman and Damon Albarn. Damon Albarn was in Blur and the fucking Gorillaz.
Damn.
So we know good when we see and hear good.
Right.
Thank you.
People who thought it was weird.
Because Andrew hated the music.
So
it was one of the things he disliked the most about this
Mm-hmm.
film, and it's one of the things I liked the best about
I did too.
this film.
I thought it was super well done.
Yeah. So it features a lot of instruments that would evoke the period: violins, guitars, banjos, accordions, even jaw harps are used. And in another article I found, I'm going to read you a quote from here too. It says, Albarn's use of lo-fi loops and occasional synths mixing brilliantly with Nyman's period instrumentals, to, like us, we said, seem like they blend pretty seamlessly together. But apparently they didn't collaborate at all and recorded their cues separately. Nyman being quoted as saying that Damon composed 60% of the tracks and I did the rest. So it was like a 60-40. They met Nyman 6 months after the release of the film, and they talked about how they enjoyed the score, and he was actually extremely negative about it and made at least one fairly libelous comment about why Bird hired Albarn in the first place, which I won't repeat, is what they said in there. And what was it? They also said, he would also stop talking to me completely when he discovered I was a sound designer as well as a composer. He has apparently never forgiven Peter Greenaway for letting someone add additional sound design to his score Prospero's books, and this is the reason why the two of them no longer work together. So basically it sounds like he gets really mad if people like mess with any of his score or his stuff. Because yeah, it sounds like he had this one idea with the loop stuff and like very probably guerrilla style and all of that. So I guess when he saw it, he's like, what the fuck is this shit? Like,
this added is not in. What I wanted at all.
I don't know. So I guess he was real salty about that. So I just thought that was super interesting because we just love it so much. And then they didn't even like get along or collaborate in any way.
Know about it. Sounds like.
I know, that's crazy. So the original director was a Macedonian art house director named Milcho Mancheski, and he was removed from production by executives the 3 weeks into production. So Fox then hired a replacement in the form of Raja Gosnell. The cast literally mutinied against that director because they felt like they weren't going to do a good job, apparently. So then finally, they had chosen Tonya Bird at the behest of Carlyle. She had directed, I guess, he had been in every major feature she had directed, so he was very familiar with her. But she was mainly known for her down-to-earth British dramas. So this was definitely something different from even what she had been doing at the time. Unfortunately, this did end up being her final film. She did unfortunately pass away from a rare form of cancer in 2013 at the age of 62.
That's sad.
But we love your work, Antonia,
yes.
wherever you are. So it also was a weird movie to market, and that's partially, I think, some of the reason why it turned out so bad. I was reading how the ad campaign was a little confusing. It was all soundtracked by Rob Zombie for just the marketing. Like, so there was a disconnect.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I guess because they're trying to pigeonhole it as a horror movie.
I guess so. It just seemed like a weird mix considering the music that is in it.
Right, which is nothing like mainstream music.
It was barely released worldwide, and it struggled to get that $2 million overall. It finally did find its audience, though, when it had hit VHS and DVD and subsequent TV showings, which is how people like us found it and latched on it. I feel like that's the story of a lot of the films we've kind of talked about sometimes that are weird that we like that didn't do so well.
Right. Cult classics.
They just lack that marketing. I read
that's what it said barely released. How are they supposed to make money if it was barely released?
I know, and I was reading too where a lot of people said the trailers themselves were also cut to make it almost look like it was going to be a whodunit and not like how it actually is. Mm-hmm. So people then probably came and were like, the fuck, this isn't what I was expecting at all. Yeah. Apparently, the producer, Laura Ziskin, allegedly was a cause of a lot of the problems around making the film. Even Antonia Bird herself had commented that it was a horrible and manipulative atmosphere during the shoot, and stating that the original director that had got kicked off should not actually be blamed for the kickoff of, like, I guess the start of the problems. Like, she's saying it wasn't him, it was this producer. I don't know how true that is. It's just quote. Mm-hmm. And then according to other comments from Bird in interviews about the film, certain elements were added in post-production without her consultation as well, which would explain like the stupid jokey title card that they have in the beginning with the text and stuff, where it was like, eat me, anonymous, and then it has like the weird beginning. Yeah, she had nothing to do with that. Like, it was this weird, too comedic kind of thing to like throw in there. It was a little, like, the comedy is in it, but it wasn't like that, you know? So she just was like, no, she championed.
When it was going,
yeah.
That wasn't her either?
I don't think so. No, they were like,
so I was like, I don't remember that.
I know, I didn't either. I was like, this is weird. And I just also want to point out that while I love this movie, and Jeffrey Jones is a well-known actor from his previous work, I also learned that he's gone on to do Deadwood and stuff in the not-so-distant past. Mm-hmm. And I find that kind of bullshit, because I just remember he is a fucking pervert. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when I was like, because I was trying to remember, I was like, it was him, right? Like, I was making sure I wasn't getting him confused with anyone, because I didn't want to say that and be wrong. And then when I Google him, that's not the first thing that shows up about him. If you Google him. Yeah. I think it should be. Right. But it is not. I had to go to like the second page, which is just bonkers in my eyes.
And he's still working, I think.
Yeah. Like I said, he did Deadwood years after this happened. Yeah. And he also, like, broke his probation twice for not giving out his address. Like, even after all of that. And it was 2002, so that wasn't even that long after this film was made. Right. So it's just crazy to think about. But yeah, he solicited a 14-year-old, and that's where I'll end it, to not get too graphic or anything. But it's just fucked up, and I was just going to point that out, that fuck this guy. Even though I might be talking about the character sometimes, I just want it to be noted this guy's a piece of shit. Yeah. So I got most of this information from the Lemron.com, Medium.com, and a little bit of Wikipedia. And Jess is going to take it away with the You Googled Summary.
Upon receiving reports of missing persons at Fort Spencer, a remote Army outpost on the western frontier, Captain John Boyd investigates. After arriving at his new post, Boyd and his regiment aid a wounded frontiersman, F.W. Calhoun, who recounts a horrifying tale of a wagon train murdered by its supposed guide, a vicious U.S. Army colonel gone rogue. Fearing the worst, the regiment heads out into the wilderness to verify Calhoun's gruesome claims. And eats people.
All right. So we've discussed we like this film. Mm-hmm. I still like it. I'll start off the bat saying I still liked it.
I still feel like it was a little too long. I feel like there were some parts in there that I'm like, they could have sped along that a little bit.
Honestly, I just realized watching it this time though that I didn't remember a lot in terms of how the plot actually
progressed.
I think my memory may have kind of flip-flopped it a little bit.
I don't remember him being the colonel
at all. No. I did not remember that.
That whole part, and then him knowing and being in the cabin with, like, I don't remember any of that. I remember them trekking through the snow and then it being a trap. Mm-hmm. And then them getting hunted. Like, I remember that, but then I thought he crawled out of that hole and then they had that fight and then they died. That's how I thought it happened.
Oh, see, I remember much more, I guess the scenes that stuck out to me the most were the desolation and, like, the snowy, like, mountain. Like, I love those shots. The cinematographer did a great job in this film. The scenery is gorgeous. And I remembered that, and I just... For some reason, I was thinking that they also got kind of, like, stuck in their fort.
That's
like,
what I thought too.
I thought there was more of like,
yeah,
they got snowed into where it was like they couldn't go get their food or their supplies or whatever, and that was why the other one started resorting to it. I didn't, for some reason, I did not remember the whole progression that it takes you to of like, no, because he's tricking them because he's the fucking colonel or whoever. You're like, oh my God.
Like, I knew he was tricking them, but I didn't know that he was the colonel. I thought that I remembered him being like with his party and then, they were starving to death. Like, whatever story he told, I guess I thought that's what happened.
I know. So, honestly, though, I'm glad I forgot that because it is like the twist of the movie.
Right.
And so watching it this time around, I was like, oh, this is great. Oh my God, I forgot that. Yeah. So, I enjoyed it so much watching it again this time. Although, like I said, much more different. I thought it was, in my head, a little more moody, and actually, I thought it was a little slower. This was actually faster than what I was remembering.
Really?
Yeah, the pace was a little quicker than I was anticipating. So even that, I was like, oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Because I think the last time I watched it was probably like 14 years ago. Because I showed it to Andrew. Because when you're dating and you're getting to know each other, and all I know is I showed him this movie and told him I loved it, and he watched it, and he's like, that's a fucking weird movie. I mean, married me anyway.
It didn't deter him that much.
But he watched it again with me last night, and he still hated it.
Well, I still liked it.
Yeah, I still loved it.
I'll watch it again.
I like the kind of like points it makes, like about manifest destiny and all that. I mean, yeah, it's a little nail on the head, in my opinion, but it's still like it's still there. It's
Robert Carlyle.
I know. I just love him. He is so good. He carries.
He's good in everything he does.
Yeah, he's great. So
I don't remember Guy Pearce being that much of a coward in it. Like, he was a true yeller through and through.
Oh yeah, and that they had. It's like. I know this movie doesn't seem like much, but it is so much because it's like I said, you have the kind of nail on the head commentary with the Manifest Destiny stuff. Then you have his own personal like theme with cowardice and like what he did. You find out in the beginning of the film that he's getting a medal because he like survived this thing and went behind enemy lines. But you find out it's because he was a coward. He played dead, got dragged behind there as like a body, and then he was able to like get the people in command.
After he drank the blood of his dead captain on top of him.
Yeah, and not even on purpose. He just said it was like draining down his throat. And so that's when they're giving you the first implication. And
I have no memory of that either, that that's how he...
Yeah, I didn't either. I didn't remember that's how he was anything remotely involved with... because there's also a Native American kind of Wendigo. They specifically mention them, because there are two Native American characters that basically have come with the fort, as they say, because they've lived... it's their fucking land. Yeah. Right. Like, jackasses.
They couldn't live there without them showing them how to live there.
Exactly. And then, of course, we find out Boyd Pierce's character is sent to this remote outpost because they know he's still a coward. They're like, get the fuck out of my sight.
Yeah, like, we know how you commandeered it or whatever.
Yeah, and the general is
kind of possum.
Yeah, the general's a dick. And sends them out there. So they're all kind of out there for their own reasons. And the beginning, it feels like a very different kind of film almost because it's like, this is the ragtag team of people at this fort.
They're all going to make it. Spoiler alert. Nobody makes it. But the woman, I think, right?
Yes.
And she just like, fuck this amount. I do have a specific memory of me on my computer on Napster downloading the soundtrack and like literally listening to it.
Yes.
Because I was like, yes, it's so creepy.
I know.
And I would even run on my treadmill like, I'm running.
Robert Carlo, he's chasing me. That is great. Oh my god. Yeah, and I remember getting, I believe you burning me a copy of like, that's where I got my copy. It was from you. So that's so funny. Yeah, we were all about this music. So when I read that it was one of the guys from the Gorillaz, I was like, oh my god. I was like, I always enjoyed their music too. I am a fan. So I was that is so funny that I just thought it was so funny that we were this old and like this movie, and that we haven't revisited it enough.
And I had it on DVD too.
Yeah, like you're like, I own it.
Yeah, I do.
So yeah, so it was.
And that's
great.
how I watched it again. And I pulled out the DVD player.
Yep.
Yeah, I did.
Dusted it off. So. Okay, yeah, so we've set up a story for you, though, overall, with Boyd being the main character. And Robert Carlyle is the stranger that shows up at the fort not too long after, I believe the same night he arrives, almost.
Yeah.
It's very, like, yeah, all, is it serendipitous?
It is.
So he shows up, and unlike his character in real life, Jones's character in the film is kind of one of the only people who is kind of innocent and seems to just really try to be doing the good thing. The colonel. He is basically like, oh, we're just trying to get out here and survive and do our job and whatever.
He's got his little books that he likes to read and learn his language.
Yeah. And he seems like he's a little more of a gentlemanly kind of fellow.
Right.
And so the stranger comes up, tells them the story, basically, like, as we've disclosed already, he is the crazed other Colonel Eyes. Colonel Eyes is his name. And when he tells the story now, he's using the Scottish accent, which I believe is his actual real accent. Yeah. But in it, they switched that up a little bit. So he's telling you in a Scottish accent that the Colonel Eyes was this mad, deranged man, and so they all started basically getting eaten and picked off, and that he hurried up and took out of there because it was just him and the girl left. Mm-hmm. And then this colonel is like, oh my god, we gotta go help this lady. Like, this is insane.
This is our job.
Yeah. And so they pile all up. So that's why I said at the beginning happens way quicker than I remembered for sure.
That is true. I think like you said, I got it reversed.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah,
I guess that's why I thought that it was slower, where it wasn't where I remembered it being.
Exactly, yeah, because that was when we started off and going to this. I was like, wait, I thought this was at the end, mm-hmm. And I was like, what happened to the scene with the colonel in the cabin and the blah blah? And I was thinking of all of that, and I thought that for some reason happened first, and then the other happened later. So that definitely was, I was like, oh, okay, now we're off. Like, we're going to the cave. Off. Like, yeah.
The cave's creepy as fuck when he has to climb down that hole.
Oh, I know. Oh, and then I also just wanted to point out that it has, as we mentioned, called him before, his era is Paul Walker.
Yes.
And that is literally what he's referred to. No, Calhoun's Robert Carlyle's.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Alternative name.
Yeah, alternative name. What's his name in real life? The
Robert Carlyle. Oh, the blonde guy. I can't even remember from my list of the actors on there. I want to say he is. Oh my gosh, where is it? Neil McDonough.
Yes, McDonough.
That's him, right? Yeah.
McDonough. Yeah,
maybe?
Neil. Yeah, that's him.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Paul Walker Sr.
I always call him. Yeah, his era is Paul Walker.
Yes, he was. The blue eyes and the blonde hair. And him being dead that whole time. So when they, in true coward fashion, he's like, I'm just going to go jump off this cliff rather than...
Yeah.
Tangle with this
fight and this guy or anything.
Yeah. I'll just take my chances, jumping off a cliff, hitting a tree on the way down. And then he, breaks his leg so bad that the bone is sticking through his leg, and he falls into, a pit.
This is a hard scene for me, because I do not like
bones either.
Stuff like that. Yeah, so this one was rough.
There's the guy dead next to him, and I'm like, that just so happens to land right next to him. I found that.
Well, because he shows them when they're falling. He lands on them, too, and
then
they start rolling down together. Yeah. Like, found your buddy.
Right. Rolled with your buddy. Yeah.
That scene.
But I didn't remember the moon. They kept showing the moon, so you knew the moon cycle. So you knew how much time had passed that he was in there.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I was like, oh, that makes sense now. I was like, I don't remember that meaning anything as a kid.
Yeah, that's true.
But he was in there for a long time, and I was like, oh, so you can eat them when they're dead, and you still get their power? I would assume it had to be fresh.
That's where I don't think they're I don't think there's
rules.
Wendigo rules. Yeah. And again, it's kind of also they're taking this lore from certain Native American cultures. And I actually, just to throw it out there, I I'm going to kick myself in the butt. I cannot remember the name of the podcast, but I was listening to it, and it was an episode about the Wendigo, and they were talking about how it's one of those, like, one of the lores of someone's culture that people have just really taken to being able to just make up whatever they want about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain, like, things you hear about certain, like, just lore and culture, certain elements where you're like, oh, they do this and this and blah, blah, blah. You know, like, they have the certain rules or this or that is known throughout the story or whatever. But this is one where people have just taken it and, like, bastardized it a lot. Right. So it's pretty interesting to, like, having to distinguish, oh, what is actually from the myth or, you know, the legends and all this stuff, and what is just what this, like, one filmmaker was like, oh, that'd be cool.
This is what it is.
Oh, yeah, because there is a one Wendigo movie that was made called Antlers. Like, apparently they don't have antlers. I think they just made that up for shits and giggles. Right. Like, you know, so it's like, so I thought that was interesting. It was a good podcast episode. I wish I could remember who it was.
You can probably look in your history.
Yeah. Might do a little
update.
After show note, yeah.
Asterisk.
Might add that in there.
And an addendum.
Addendum. Yeah, so they were, like I said, they were off to the races. And I love how, though, it's just very Oregon Trail as well. You know, like, I get those vibes from
Frontier.
Yeah, the Frontier.
For that scenery. So beautiful.
It was so beautiful. I loved it.
And snow.
But like I said, they all found it pretty quickly. All of the cave scene culminates pretty fast. The priest gets injured is the catalyst.
Yes.
Just to throw that out there.
Yeah, because
his blood gets tempting.
He gets bloodlust. But that scene is still, and I've been saying it wrong for a long time, because I always thought it was, he was liking me, and he was liking me.
We had the tone wrong.
We had the tone totally wrong.
Because he has, like, that whisper that he did.
Yeah.
I was like, what? He was liking me.
And he was like, he was liking me.
Yeah, we got to that scene pretty quick, and I was like, oh, here it is. I forgot. I know. I was like, I forgot it was so soon. And the way he acts,
he looks like all feral, like little, like bat in their corner.
He does so well. Yes, like he is genuinely creepy.
Yes,
he does it so good.
Like his eyes almost look black, like they're absorbing the light. Like that.
I know,
so
like
cool.
I don't. That's where I'm like, people, you have to, if you have seen this movie, and it's batshit. It is a like.
Yeah,
Western expansion cannibal horror comedy movie almost.
Yeah.
Like, you never would have think all of these things would be thrown together, but they have, and it fucking works. I don't care. I just loved it. So yeah, you just start off the crazy there, and I was like, oh boy, this is going to be different than I remember. So
right.
I think this is when I was like, okay, I'm ready.
That's what I wrote down too. So when he was explaining to them what happened, what set them going to find the lady. And he was telling them everything that they ate, like they like all the horses, the whatever. I was like, that sounds like a lot of fucking meat.
I said this
for 5-6 people.
I said the same
in
thing.
a month and a half.
I was like, for a whole oxen. I was like, wouldn't that last a while?
In snow.
And then Andrew was like, well, again, because he was like, well, I bet they wouldn't have any way to keep it to last that long. So after a while, you'd have to throw it out. And I was like,
no.
I don't know. I was like, in that kind of snow, I feel like that preserves it enough.
And you wouldn't have salt with you.
And if you were starving, you know, like, I still think you could get away with it. So either way, I also agreed with you. Like, once he would have told me that, I'm like, that seems fishy.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of meat for that many people. And if you're starving, you wouldn't be able to eat that much.
I know.
So you wouldn't kill more than you would eat. You would have to go through the whole oxen first before you would dare kill anything else. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But of course, the other stuff would start dying off, I guess, because it didn't have anything to eat. So I guess, but still.
But I feel like you can live a while. Like a month is. Could you live? How long do you live without food if you're just drinking water?
I think it's like 2 weeks.
Oh, that's it?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not that long. So yeah, they set it up though, like very quick. We get into the scene. Like I said, it's already his era, Paul Walker, figures out it's a trap really quick when he actually sees all the skeletons hanging and shit, and knows like, oh, this guy was like
eating people,
and it was him. And then he's being all weird outside even then. Yeah, because this is after he was licking me. He's already been kind of weird, and they allowed him to even
run free. Why didn't you tie his ass to a tree once you find a cave? And be like, all right, he was licking somebody. I don't care if he was dreaming or not. You're licking somebody.
Yeah,
you're licking a wound.
Yeah,
you tore open his bandage to lick him.
It's weird.
That's really weird.
We're gonna I mean, this is like Wild West shit. I would have already killed him.
That's what I'm saying. There's no rules.
Like, especially where I'm like, you're some like ragtag like team out here in the middle of nowhere. I don't think anyone would have said anything otherwise had you have killed him.
Yeah,
but like that guy was fucking weird.
Yeah, he was trying to drink his blood. Okay?
Yeah, like
that's all you had to say. They're like, witchcraft. Kill him.
Right? Especially like the guy was the preacher or whatever. Like so you're like, no, absolutely dead.
Right. That's also that but at least if you're not gonna kill him, tie his ass to a tree.
Yeah. But no, they don't, and he digs up a knife he had buried.
That's what he was doing.
It's a weird scene. Even in some of those articles I read, they both, I think, talked about how this was a weird, disjointed scene, and they really are blaming that post-production stuff that none of the people kind of involved in knew about. Which I think it's funny that both of the films we've watched for Cannibal Christmas had people mucking up with it after the fact.
And you're like, that's not your job, is it?
I mean, well, because they're like, oh, we gotta make some money. But I'm like, yo, if you probably hadn't touched it, this film might have made more money than... Like, you might have got your money back.
You fucked with the vision.
Yeah, you fucked with the vision.
That you approved, obviously, or you wouldn't have started the movie if you didn't approve the script.
Like, you knew it was a weird movie going in this. Like, embrace it.
Especially when Robert Carlyle, like, backs a director. You think they'd be like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about?
Right? I don't know. I feel like it was just a slight injustice was done with the behind-the-scenes stuff in terms of what it sounds like, the production and the post-production stuff. So that's disappointing. Because, because like I said, it is a weird part where you're like, what the fuck is... And then he's like... And then he, like, stops, and then he goes back to doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what's weird, and... Again, I think they were saying that might have been the cutting, so I'm not sure. Because, I feel like it wasn't a directorial decision, maybe.
Yeah.
Because the way it was. It's a weird scene. And he gets all of them.
Yeah,
except for Boyd. Because Boyd, as we mentioned, jumps off this fucking cliff, survives with his dead homie beside him for, like, it's like 2 weeks almost, I think, by the way the moon cycle. Yeah, the moon cycle works. And then that's when he finally caves in and eats, like, a piece of the guy's leg, I think. And then it shows him able to have the strength to get out. And, like...
and I was like, ew, it's like... He's disintegrating. It's like rotted at that point.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, and I was like, that still counts? Okay.
I guess.
And then I was like, you can cook it in a stew and that still counts?
Yeah, the whole point. And see, that's another thing where I'm not sure if that's like Wendigo rules or if they just like if that was
I'm sure that's not.
I was like, that has to be something that is dead for this because I was like, especially if you unknowingly ate it, like I feel like if it were really from like a more spiritual, and like morality level, you know what I mean? Right. Like if you unknowingly did it, that's how could that wouldn't be a commentary on anyone's morals. They didn't fucking know. Like, like it's more of the concept, I think, is like the greed and the selfishness from that other aspect. But yeah, it was like no holds bar. It's like, and it's like I said, even in the beginning where he's like, he was just laying and hiding, like, and trying to survive, and blood just dripped in his mouth. Like, if that were the case to me, that to me would just make it seem like, even, someone cut themselves and like one drop of blood on your tongue, Wendigo. Like,
or you get the bloodthirst, I guess.
I don't know, but that's where I'm like, come on, guys. Like, you gotta,
he said blood was pouring down my throat, so maybe it has to be a certain amount of somebody else's blood.
I guess so.
And not just flesh.
Yeah. Like, that's another thing where I'm like, it starts with the blood. Starts with a little, like, vampirism. And then it turns into full cannibalism.
That's your life fluid.
Yeah. And, and that was another thing a lot of the articles mentioned, too, was the undertones of the homoerotic themes between Boyd and Carlyle.
Yeah, which I enjoyed. I
Even Andrew at one point, he was like, "Are they gonna kiss?"
and
I was like, "Maybe."
And then it reminded me of like Interview with the Vampire style.
Yes,
he had that long hair. And he
oh
was
my gosh, yeah, when he like flips and he's actually like he's the Colonel guy, because that's what happens. Is he gets away and he knows he does or whatever, and then like I said, he survives. He gets out of the woods finally and comes back. And then Carlisle's the one, he's the Colonel, is what you find out. And that's when the big twist happens, which is still like mid-movie though,
right.
Basically.
That's what I'm saying. So it was substantially long movie, wasn't it?
Was
it 2 hours?
An hour and 40 minutes.
That was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt longer.
Mm-hmm. And it's because that second half of the film, this is where, again, I thought it was reverse.
Right.
So that's why I thought, I was like, I guess that other stuff didn't happen. But no, it's when he gets back from all of those people dying. And they're like, what the fuck happened? And of course, now they think he's the one doing all of this. But so the biggest complaint I have about this movie is because Carlisle's character, he was seen by that guy and by, I thought, the Native American woman, correct? Or did she not see him and it was just the brother?
Because she and David
that's right. They went to camp.
Yeah, they went to get supplies.
I could not remember about her character, but it was Knox that annoyed me because I'm like, you saw him.
But he's a fall down drunk.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
was like passed out the whole time.
But I just don't know why would he... They had just met Boyd. I don't know why they would have had such a distrust in him so soon. You know what I mean?
Well,
like, he had just joined the regiment.
And he's the only one that came back out of all those people.
Oh, yeah. So then they're like, this is fishy.
Especially the Native American guy. Like, he seemed pretty badass, especially with his bow and arrow. And they're like, he didn't come back? Like, he knows those woods.
That's true. See, okay, now that I could see because he was with them, and that would be like, okay, if
and he
anyone's
just happened
going
to
survive,
chuck that fucking knife at him just at the right spot.
I know.
Like,
yeah, because we see the Colonel, Jeffrey Jones's character, get tomahawked and fucking stabbed by Carlisle's character, like all of that, and so that's another twist you get in this second part of the movie.
The surprise!
He comes back.
And I'm like, what did he eat? Who did he eat?
He says Carlisle was feeding him. And so because...
Like a little baby.
Like a little baby. So basically, it's almost like Carlisle's wanting to basically make a little cannibal gang. Yeah. Is what you find out.
He wants to take over the new frontier.
Yeah, he wants to take over the new frontier.
People as they come in.
Exactly. But he said they're going to be selective.
Yes.
Not indiscriminate. Because he's like, you can't tear families apart.
Those morals.
I know.
Standards.
And there's a lot of like moments in this film like that to where
it's like he wants to start his family.
I could get how some people would be like, what's funny about this? But all of it is so absurd, and that's why it's funny. And then that's why him even saying that stuff. Like, there were some points where
and the way he like prances around and
I'm like giggling, and Andrew's like, what are you laughing at? And I'm like, it's so funny. I'm like, how can you not?
Oh, I know. Especially when, I don't know, there's just certain scenes.
There are certain scenes that are so, I can't even right now, I'm like struggling to describe it. I can't really capture a way to describe it to be like, and this is why it's funny. Because if I were to actually talk about the scene, that you'd be like, no, that's not funny. It's weird. So now I kind of am like, I get when we watch like Man Bites Dog, with like how crazy it was and violent and gory. And I'm like, this was like our Man Bites Dog.
Yeah.
Like where some people could watch it and be like, this was not funny. And it was
borderline offensive.
Yeah. And then a lot of reviews, and as I said, I mentioned it being so gory. Like people were so upset with the gory. When we've watched a lot of just different kind of horror movies this year, that's one thing I have noticed a lot of is we've done a lot where people were upset about the gore level, and then when we watched it, we were like, I didn't think it was gory at all.
Gore means something else. Is blood just considered gore? I could see that had blood,
but I know. But
I was more offended by the steak scene.
I know,
than the bloody pit of people scene.
I agree. I
was like,
yeah, they made that steak look real unappetizing,
and just the way everybody, I'm like, and who just eats a plate of steak?
because they're army men or whatever.
This big old chunk of meat that's bloody.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it had such good shots like that, and these weird, awkward moments, and like, yeah, so I was happy with it, and even towards the end, with it kind of, we were like, oh, okay, like, I forgot this was where we're going.
And after it happened, then I was like, oh yeah, them dying in the bear trap scene together.
Yes, I know. I was like,
and
oh, it's
Dave
all
walked in right at that part,
me.
and I was like, died in each other's arms. And he was like,
Yeah. No, when we're getting up to that point.
Eat me or die.
Or die.
Eat me or die. I'd be like, all right.
It's great. Yeah, because it builds up to the big climax, which is he gets back. Everyone's obviously fishy of him, but he's like, nah, I'm going to be watching this guy like a hawk.
Not even asleep.
But again, Jeffrey Jones comes out totally out of left field. You weren't expecting that. So now there was two of them. You have Knox Stew. The general is on his way. So at this point, you're almost like there's like a timeline. You know,
yes.
like there is a clock running, and we know that something's going to happen soon. You can see the general.
The thunder rolls.
Yes, it's happening. And the scene is like, their fight scene too is almost like cartoony.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they start like just grabbing, it's like they're taking turns almost like
hitting
each
now
other.
You hit. Now you.
And the way they do it, it's just so funny. And it was well done. It was, silly.
Yeah.
And like, okay. And then even the transition though is a little rough into how they get into where the bear trap is. They did a little foreshadowing with that, with him looking in that area and seeing like all the traps and things.
Right.
So yeah, and then you get the final payoff, and he throws himself along with Carlisle in the bear trap because he's like, nah, finally he is not a coward.
Yeah.
Because all that cajoling that Carlisle does, eat me. Or die. Because he acknowledges, he's like, if you die first, I'm just going to eat you.
Yeah.
And then you did this for fucking nothing.
But my question was, why didn't he just eat him anyway while he was on top of him? He could have just started fucking eating his head.
Well, that was the thing that you mean Carlisle.
He could have been like...
I still think he didn't have use of his, like, arms enough to be able... I think he was like, he'd be like just out of reach. Like, wouldn't be able to... It'd be like a little stick on a carrot, you know, or whatever.
I don't know. I feel like if I was already a cannibal, I would do my best to be getting fucking eaten and getting that motherfucker on top of me.
I do like that we forgot to mention is you do get the real story. And it pretty much is exactly what he told them. It was just he was the bad guy. But you find out why he originally did it also was because he actively heard stories about, like, I guess Wendigo kind of stuff.
Because he had tuberculosis.
Because he had TB and he was dying. So he was actively trying to, like, be immortal and do that. So he was just a genuinely bad person, basically.
He obviously put himself above.
Yeah. And Pierce was just supposed to be a coward.
Yeah.
Which is a similar right. But at the end, with him doing it in the bear trap and choosing not to eat him, he was brave. He chose death over... You know, what crazy shit he'd become otherwise.
Well, because he had asked... Was her name Mary? The Native American woman?
I don't remember.
He asked her, like, how to get... Like, how do you stop it? And she was like, you don't. You die.
Yeah, exactly.
And he was like, oh.
Yeah. And he accepted that. Like, yeah. So they do have it. Yeah, they in a loving embrace.
Mm-hmm.
This is after also he does kill Jeffrey Jones's character, asks him to, because he as well was like, nah, never mind, I really don't want to.
And that's what I was gonna say. That was a total 180 because he was like, oh, I felt terrific, blah 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 blah, and he was like, you gotta kill me first. Okay, you're right. Go ahead and kill me.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that was quick.
I think he was upset he didn't have his books.
I could see that because what's the point if you can't have your books? Like, what's the point of living forever if you can't do the things you want to do?
Oh, I will say, I did write in my notes one of the scenes where he's like, that I snorted when he does the Thomas Jefferson quote when he was like, eat to live, don't live to eat or something like that. And just the way I snorted. And then Andrew's like giving me looks on the couch. I'm like, I thought it was funny.
Especially the way he said it with these like
yeah, like so drink. Like, oh look how
winky.
Everything's good. Like he seems like he's so excited about his little cannibal game.
I know.
And like he's like, oh, it's all roses from here.
Like, it's all coming together. The king's all here.
He was so excited.
And then he was showing them what their kingdom was going to be like, what they're going to take over the world, everything you see that the sun touches.
He's their Mufasa.
And then he's like, you had to go and ruin the for me, eat me or die.
Yeah, like, obviously, we've been talking about how we've just enjoyed this the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
That's Ravenous.
I recommend it. So.
I know. It's, like, again, it's hard to describe sometimes if you haven't seen it, so.
Because there's a lot of shit that goes on in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we did not talk about.
David Arquette's death.
Yeah.
That was pretty.
Mm-hmm. A build up with that.
Yeah, that was good.
Of when, things are looking like it's Boyd, but Boyd knows it's actually Carlisle, and you're getting more of a.
But it wasn't even Carlisle, it was.
So, all of that to unpack. It's like I said, it is only an hour and 40 minutes. It does seem longer than that, but it was a pretty quick watch. Like I started it at 8, and I was done by like 9:40
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, I was like, all right, cool, bedtime. I would definitely watch it again.
Yeah, I probably will. I mean, I have it on DVD. So
there you go.
It's free for me.
5 stars. No, I don't know about 5 stars, but it's a classic for me. I definitely 3 at least.
I think 3.5 to 4 for me because the soundtrack I still enjoyed. It was thoroughly creepy.
I am going to go back. I'm going to find the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Somewhere. I haven't looked on Spotify yet. I don't know if it'll be on there or not, but.
Maybe. You never know. Maybe YouTube.
Oh, yeah, that's probably more likely. It could be on YouTube. So we suggest this one, guys, for all your cannibal movie needs.
Yes, especially this Christmas. As many people as I talk to on a daily basis, not many of them have been in the spirit this year.
Yes.
So I feel like this was an appropriate watch.
And appropriate release for Christmas Eve, apparently. We also forgot to mention Merry Christmas Eve.
Merry Christmas Eve. We kind of forgot that they lined up that way.
Yeah. And also a happy Yule solstice to all of those as well. That's today as we're recording.
Yeah. Didn't even plan that either.
I know. I forgot all the holidays this year.
They snuck up on me.
Yes, because I think even Hanukkah might start on Christmas Eve this year as well. So on the 24th, I don't know. So like I said, there's
happy all of the holidays.
All of them.
Happy them.
And we're going to do our little homework questions we had.
Uh-huh.
So, do you want me to reveal mine first?
Yes.
Okay, because I had time to think about it. And I was like, oh, it's so hard. Because, again, you're thinking of their universe. How bad is it? Or,
what do they have to go through to get to their happy ending?
Exactly. All
do they
of
even
that.
live?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was hard for me because most women-centric movies, either the woman dies or something really horrible happens to them.
Yeah.
And a lot of the movies I was trying to think of.
Well, I was also considering that too because there was a few where I'm like, oh, no. And then I settled. I was like, because it would be worth it either way. Evie from The Mummy.
Oh. Yeah, because you get the adventure, but you get saved in the end, and you get Brendan Fraser.
And you get to look like her.
Yeah, I mean, she's beautiful.
Egyptologist. Hello. Like...
That is right up your alley.
Right up my alley. I love. There's a trilogy, so I pretty much know how they're
alive the whole time.
How the entire life.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm good. That's exactly what I'm choosing. So that's who I want. If I could be any movie character, Evie from The Mummy, because I just love that fucking
That's a good one. I know we were talking about this movie earlier, but I chose a few, but I think my top one was Kate from French Kiss.
Oh. I think that's perfect for you.
Because I've always loved Meg Ryan, especially in that movie. She is at her cutest.
Yes.
I already talked about Kevin Kline with that mustache and that 5 o'clock shadow.
Oh, that's great.
And that scene, the standout scene to me in that whole movie was when she's on that train looking at the French countryside eating like bread and cheese. I was like, what more can you want?
Yeah.
And then his family is loaded. They live on that like beautiful vineyard.
Perfect. Good choice, actually. Yeah. Great choice.
Get to be flown from France to America whenever I want.
Wonderful. I know, because when I thought about the rom-coms I kind of like, I wouldn't actually want to live their lives still. Because, like, I love Under the Tuscan Sun with Diane Lane. But, I mean, it's just a pretty sad,
it's kind of sad and lonely.
And, The thing I like about that movie is because the love interests are second fiddle, really, to, like, what she's supposed to be
that's why
doing.
I love the movie.
That's why I love the movie.
But I don't want to be that.
Exactly. That's why I was like, but yeah, if I was, like, choosing, I'm like, nah. And then, like, Bridget Jones, obviously I love. But I'm like, I don't want to be Bridget because I've seen the trilogy, too. And I know what happens or whatever.
How her life
ends
up.
Like,
and
awful.
Right, exactly.
Like, no, thank you. So, yeah, that's why I was like, I'll go,
I was also considering Rose from The Mirror Has Two Faces.
Oh, my God. Oh, but it's kind of sad, too.
It's a little sad, but she also ends up with Jeff Bridges.
That's true.
And then my third is one that I've always said I wanted to be. Blade.
Oh, there.
But I'm like, no. I mean, if I really wanted that life.
It's so funny because I literally said the same thing to Kiana. I was like, when she first said it, I was like, maybe Blade. I was like, he would be cool.
Because I always wanted to be a intimidating badass that could.
And Wesley Snipes looks very intimidating and so cool in Blade.
He's so sexy in that movie. And
so
just so badass.
It's true. It's true.
Like, I just want to live that life for a day. I want somebody to look at me and be like, terrified instantly. And I want to walk into a room and know that I could take any motherfucker in that room. I want that kind of energy.
For some reason, I kept thinking of Domino and Keira Knightley, too. But I'm like, why would I want to...
Not want her life?
Cool.
Oh, yeah. I loved her in that movie.
But after watching Pride and Prejudice, I'm like,
Can I survive with no air conditioning?
I know. Like, well, this England, it was cooler then.
Yeah, this was still the 90s and French Kiss.
There you go. And I always thought living, for me with the Mummy in like the 1920s period would be interesting.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, technically as a woman you had more rights than you did before.
True.
And I was like, and maybe I could get away with, still being like, ooh, education was more affordable. I don't know.
Well, like, and you could because...
You could have more adventure, maybe.
Brendan Fraser would support you no matter what.
That's true. I know. Look at that.
I also briefly thought about Baby from Dirty Dancing.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
It's Patrick Swayze. And then being able to be held up like that would be amazing. I've never been small enough that somebody could hold me up above their head.
I don't think I have either.
I've never been with somebody strong enough.
All right. So our other follow-up questions were, what was your favorite movie that we covered this year?
That was kind of hard for me because we did a lot of good ones this year.
Oh, it's so funny because I was going to say we did a lot I didn't like this year too. So it was hard for me to also make my decisions.
I mean, Long Legs was one of my tops.
I was going to say it was also one of mine too, I think. Was definitely Long Legs. And especially for a new one that came out.
We got to do a new one I liked. Girl Interrupted got me back into my little Winona kick.
Oh, that's true.
On. And I still enjoyed that one with her in it.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So I did like that one. And Moulin Rouge was still beautiful and so nostalgic to me.
Nice.
So those are my top three.
I'm gonna go with... I was looking through again.
Did you not already choose?
Well, I did, but I was like, well, let me make sure. Let me double check myself. Because I'll say a lot of the movies this year I didn't super like.
Yeah.
It was a little rough start. Even our little vacation one was a little like, the foreign films were okay. I would say, Girl Interrupted probably is one of my favorites. It's still always going to like it. I want to say I enjoyed the Reality Bites episode recording it. Like, I really liked talking about it. Even if the movie wasn't one of my favorites that we've watched necessarily, I really had fun doing that episode. Yeah, and that's kind of a lot of the other ones. I'm not super like Stigmata was a little disappointing. Like I thought I was gonna maybe still like it, and I was like, oh man. Ravenous, I would say this one probably Ravenous and Girl Interrupted would be some of my two favorites that we watched, and Long Legs if you don't want to include like new of what.
Yeah, I mean, I would include Ravenous too. I kind of didn't think about including that one.
Oh, and The Man in the Iron Mask. I still enjoyed.
That one still held up, for sure.
I still enjoyed that one, and I enjoyed hating on...
Gerard Depardieu.
No, all of them. Like, it was ridiculous. I would say my least favorite, though, was probably The Deep House.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really did not like that movie. It was just boring, and I even started, like I said, I listened to some of the beginning of certain episodes, and on that one I listened to us actually talking about it, and I'm like, yeah, I think this one might be one of the ones I hated the most, along with, which you're going to probably be like, but Rain of Fire. I don't care. Yeah, Rain of Fire was horrible, and it was probably...
No, because I didn't even mind watching that one again.
Yeah,
it was fine watching it.
I didn't enjoy it. And Predator 2, I would say, was the most disappointing.
Yeah.
Because I was looking forward to that one, and I was like, aw.
The most disappointing for me was Frailty.
Yeah.
Because I was really looking forward to that one. Like, I had some good memories
of it. Stigmata. The whole month was really...
It was, wasn't it? It was, yeah.
Those were movies that were, these were awesome. And they were like,
just
not so awesome.
Oh, man. That's so funny.
I know. So going into this coming year...
so your birthday month was shit.
It was shit. Makes sense. It's always shit. Going into the new year, we've mentioned we're going to have our aliens theme.
Still waiting. Is it sooner?
Almost?
Almost? Is that
almost?
Almost yet?
We'll have the final idea announced later. We just came up with it, guys. Give us a break.
Right.
Now, other one, though, that we've had in the chamber that we will go ahead and tease as well that Jessica came up with for February was Face Your Fears February. Yes. So that'll be a fun one. So that was Ravenous. That was our little end-of-year kind of questionnaire at the end for fun.
Recap.
Remix cap. And as always, you can find us at FilmGazers on the social medias, FilmGazers podcast community on Discord. But yeah, I was like, I'm about to have this time off and everything, and then we're going to do the mini-sodes.
Get ready for a bunch of activity.
Yeah, exactly. And we're getting ready for the new year. We're going to have some plans. I want to try to hop on our Canva and like maybe make some of our assets ahead of time. Because I think we both dropped the ball on that.
Yeah,
just a little bit. Yeah, it's not a big deal. But I'm just like, I noticed too. I'm like, oh shit, I need to help with that. But yeah, either way, hop on the Discord if you'd like to check out a little more of what we've been up to. So with that, guys, very happy holidays, a very happy new year. Make sure you stay tuned for the fun Twilight mini-sodes that we will be releasing.
Post-Christmas.
Yes, post-Christmas, pre-New Year's. Time to hit the dusty trail.
Until next time.
Later, taters.